anytime I see like a video that somebody posts with like a chimp in it, I always think there's nothing good that can come of this. Like
it's not going to end nice.
Yeah, there's no. I don't think I've ever seen a video with a chimp in it that ends nicely.
I mean, I've seen a few, but
on the whole,
they usually don't go so good.
Right.
Like I saw the one where the lady they had that one chimp that was she was really old and she was dying, and like they couldn't get her to eat, they couldn't get her to do much anything except live there and
the chimp
die.
came in and killed her.
Well, no, the chimp was the one who was dying.
She smelled the fear.
The chimp was the one who was dying.
Oh, okay.
And they like flew in her old caretaker.
Mm-hmm.
They took care of her for most of her life. And when the chimp like kind of rolled over, and when she saw him, the chimp's face,
right?
You know, because they're very expressive,
right?
Like lit up, and it would like reached out to touch him, and it was a very sweet, moment between them. But it's still a chimp.
You're right. Right.
Like,
well, not only that, but an old chimp that might have very well had like dementia, which is a horrific thought.
It's like seeing demons. Like fucking Doomslayer chimp. My favorite one is whose toes are those? I've used the sound clip from that video in a couple of our episodes just because it's such a good chimp sound. It's where all those people are sitting around that fire, and that guy walks over and he's like, "Whose toes are those?" And it's that chimp, and the chimp's going like, "Ooh, ooh, ooh." My favorite part about that fucking video is the chimps. Like everybody's kind of like talking amongst themselves, and then chimp starts going, "Woo, woo, woo!" And it gets real quiet after that. Like everybody was like, "Oh shit."
Yeah, I would never like voluntarily like expose not like expose myself to a chimp.
Yeah, probably reach over and snap that thing off.
Like be in the vicinity of a chimpanzee.
Yeah, no, I don't want to be near a chimp at all.
Right, certainly not expose myself to one.
You got like a trench coat. Well, yeah, I mean, any of the great apes.
No, they're all horrifying.
Yeah, like have you ever seen that video where they're like walking around where those like western lowland gorillas are, and it's like some people and they've got like a guide with them. And one of like the silverbacks like charges him out of the brush and grabs that guy by his leg and drags him like 10 feet and it lets go of him. But the dude looks up and just the fear on his face. Just like
I just remember I've seen that video because it's like real quiet and he just kind of drags him like 15 feet.
Yeah.
And just lets go of him. And the guy gets up and just like,
yeah. Like if that thing wanted to kill you, there's not a damn thing you could do against that. There's nothing you could do except be torn to shreds by a giant demon, like hairy man thing. Yeah, I mean, my favorite animal is an orangutan. I love orangutans. It's my favorite animal. I don't want to be near one.
No.
Like, it's cool to go and see one like behind some glass where he can't hurt me.
Right.
and I think that they're typically pretty chill anyway. But still, I mean, they're still incredibly strong.
Right.
And they have, like, fangs.
Yeah, you know, tear your face off.
Yeah, if it wanted to, it absolutely could do it.
Bite your sternum in half.
Yeah, ugh. Eat my balls in front of me.
No, thanks. No, thank you. It's sort of amazing that there's people that will go out and, like, live in those troops. And, like...
Oh, yeah.
What a wild life. To like go out and like live with these incredibly strong,
unpredictable,
insane animals.
Yeah, they're insane.
Right. There's people that are in insane asylums that don't act as insane.
I'd rather hang around with them. I'd expose myself to one of those guys.
Right.
Like, who was that real famous one? That lady. What was her name?
Oh, Jane Goodall.
Jane Goodall.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she pioneered like a lot of what we know about those animals because the only way to learn about them was to go out there and be around them.
Right.
So I'm glad that someone did it, and I'm glad that someone wasn't fucking me.
Right. I have no interest. No, thank you.
Yeah, none whatsoever. When we were at, we went to the zoo over in Italy, and we kind of went back to where they had like all the different apes and everything, and they had bonobo chimps and orangutans. And we walked over to like the chimp enclosure, and me and Mary were standing there, like in the kind of like the glass window thing, and one of them just walked right up to us, and looked me in my eye, and I just like the hackles on the back of my neck stood up like that. There's a threat. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be anywhere near those things because the thing too is like, in the midst of dying that agonizing death, I'd be thinking to myself, this was entirely avoidable.
Yeah, this was
it's
all
not
preventable.
like it broke into my house. I went to his house.
Right,
Exactly. Where he killed me.
Yeah, chips aren't breaking into people's homes.
No, God, could you imagine though if it was like a problem?
Yeah.
It's like there's those rhesus macaque monkeys in Florida.
No.
Like there's monkeys in Florida, and the reason that they're even there is because one dude who had like an island that people would go to.
No.
Like not like an Epstein situation, but like a tourist.
Like go fuck these monkeys.
It was like a tourist thing.
Yeah.
They'd come see like the manatees and stuff. Well, he wanted like more wildlife for people to come look at, so he went and got like 13 macaque monkeys, like those little like these guys or whatever, little tiny guys.
Like the ones that wear like little hats and
and like spin the hurdy-gurdy. Yeah, those little guys. And he just kind of like let them out into the mangroves.
That sounds like a good idea.
And then they started multiplying. So now there's like this monkey population in this area of Florida that are not supposed to be there.
Right.
The problem with introducing like animals and plant life and things like that to places where they're not supposed to be, one of two things will happen. Okay. They're either not going to be able to survive, or they're going to be able to survive way too good.
Right.
And become an issue.
It's like those anacondas down in Florida.
Yeah.
It's like they've pretty much eaten. I don't think they said there are no longer any raccoons left inside of the Everglades.
Really? Just because they've been eaten by all the
anacondas?
The
anacondas eating all of them.
Yeah, and like nothing's eating them.
Right.
Yeah.
And they have no natural predators. Like they're eating the gators.
Yeah. Like, so imagine if somebody rounded up like 600 chimps.
Oh, God.
Just like a small army of chimps.
Right.
And released them in like I don't know, like Noonan, Georgia. Like how quickly of an issue would that become for the entire nation? It would get out of hand so fast. You'd have to go to war with them.
Right.
You'd
I
have
just
to
like
hunt
imagine
them
like
down.
a Jumanji situation.
Like running through the streets. Like flipping over police cars. God, speaking of Jumanji, that movie used to freak me out as a kid. There's a lot of like I don't like bugs. And there's that one scene where they get attacked by those giant mosquitoes. They're like busting in through the windows and shit.
Oh, he's like stuck that thing down through the windshield.
Yeah. That freaked me the hell out as a kid. I hated that.
Yeah.
I don't like the kid turning into a monkey over time.
Yeah.
Have you watched that movie recently?
Autumn loves that movie.
The visuals do not hold up.
No, they don't.
At all.
No.
The little monkeys that they're showing running through the through the street is so bad. It looks like it's from Jimmy Neutron. But at the time, I mean, that was probably like groundbreaking.
Right, like the monkeys like driving the cop car and like shooting the shotgun through the top of the car. Yeah, Autumn loves that movie. I remember specifically in that movie, the thing that I liked the least in that movie was the flowers that shot the barbs at people.
Yeah.
I hated them. I was like,
yeah.
Out of all the things, I hated those the most.
There's something about like sentient plant life that's really unnerving.
Yeah.
Like Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah.
Like I know that's like a goof or whatever, but there's something like innately disturbing about that.
Right. Like getting eaten by a plant.
By a plant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, what the hell?
Yeah.
There's a lot of bad ways to go, man. Speaking of visuals that don't hold up well, I watched Avatar not long ago, the James Cameron one.
Mm-hmm.
Second one recently came out. And I've heard mixed things about it's good, it's bad. There's a lot of POC people who are pissed off about it because of it's like racist or something.
Right, because the blue people were played by white people.
Yeah.
Right, when obviously they are like...
Why didn't you get real blue people?
Those blue people are obviously people of color. It's like, yep, they're blue.
They're blue people.
Yeah, they're blue people. You would be correct. They are blue.
I watched the first one not long ago, and I remember going to see that in theaters. It was like Christmas Day we went to go see that or something.
It was a big deal.
It was a huge deal.
Yeah.
And, I remember that it was very visually impressive. And it's a well, composed movie and everything. But the visuals, I can see that they're dated.
Right.
There's little things that that really stands out. In particular, there's a scene towards the beginning of the movie where he's, Jake Sully's character, he gets his avatar.
Mm-hmm.
He goes out on a field mission with the science team, and they're in their avatar bodies. Well, he's kind of while they're doing science, he's kind of off dicking around, and he pisses off some kind of animal, and it starts chasing him through the jungle. Well, during that chase sequence, he runs past a lot of what's supposed to be bamboo, bamboo shoots, but they're not 3D objects. They're flat PNGs.
Oh, no.
So they're perfectly facing the camera, regardless of which direction he's running. And they added a lot of motion blur and filters to try and hide that.
Right.
But once you notice it, you're like, fuck, I can really see that.
Right.
That's just a flat image, and it's facing directly at the camera, no matter which way he's going.
He runs by, and there's they didn't clip it right.
It clips through him.
Oh, it's just this white background. With
with the squares. Somebody uploaded a JPEG.
Yeah, I heard that the second. I've heard mixed reviews on the second one too. I had the craziest thing to me about the second one is how much money they spent just to make the movie. I think they said just in order for them to break even on the movie, of course, with marketing and everything, it cost them $1.5 billion just to make the movie.
Yeah,
and they probably spent another $500 million for marketing. So
they made over $1 billion in the first week.
Right. So, but for them to break, you have to surpass $2 billion
to start turning a profit on this.
To turn a profit on it. That's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane to me that a studio would greenlight that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's wild.
Yeah. I mean, there was even a lot of flack that James Cameron caught a lot of flack about the whole white savior complex thing from the first movie and everything, and given today's political climate, it's weird that they even wanted to touch that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because they're companies, especially production agencies and things like that, are really quick to distance themselves from anything that's kind of hot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, it is interesting that they were go ahead and spend $1.5 billion.
Yeah, and especially too with it being 13 years later.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
Right.
Yeah.
It's is there even a market for this anymore?
Yeah. Well, apparently that is, because it's selling. It's doing great. It's doing well, from what I can tell.
Yeah. I mean, the movie looked visually very stunning.
Yeah.
It looked incredible.
I saw some behind the scenes stuff of their mocap and just how far the technology has come. And if it weren't for the fact that they were blue aliens,
right?
You could very convincingly make a fully 3D movie and it looked almost close to being real.
That was one of the things I remember about that when they initially released Avatar, was that was the first big 3D movie that kind of got brought forward. Everybody went and saw it in 3D. I didn't, because...
You mean with the glasses?
With the glasses and everything. Yeah, I just the whole 3D thing. I remember they had
very
3D.
Gimmicky.
Yeah, I remember they had 3D
gimmicky
TVs that came out at one point,
and they came with glasses.
Right,
yeah.
and I was like, I'm gonna lose those glasses.
Yeah,
and
I don't want to put on my special TV glasses.
Right,
can the TV be not 3D?
Right,
can it just be a normal TV for a little bit?
Right, I don't want to be some nerd sitting there on my couch with these stupid glasses on. I just want to watch TV.
Do you remember even during that time, Nintendo came out. You remember the DS? Like the
Yes.
little flip screen
I
thing?
remember that. Yeah.
They made a 3DS.
Right.
They had like a little slider at the bottom that you could, slide one way, and it would be a flat image that you're looking at. Mm-hmm. You slide it the other way, and it would make it 3D. But you didn't have to wear glasses to get the 3D effect. And what it did was it had like two screens that were on an armature, and when you made the 3D thing, it would tilt them like concave towards one another.
Yeah.
So it gave the illusion of depth. But
Right.
what it really did was make you sick to your fucking stomach to look at. Because I had one, and I turned on the 3D function like during setup.
Yeah.
And so they had a lot of stuff that was like designed to work perfectly with that, and you're like, wow, that looks really cool. Mm-hmm. But then you slap in some game that was made by a third-party developer
Right.
that they didn't intend to be in 3D, and you're like, this looks like fucking trash.
Like it's not meant to be played like that.
Yeah. It's funny when they'll do things like that, like to show off tech.
Right.
Like they'll make like this, like a little demo that's perfectly optimized to use the system hardware,
Right.
in the most perfect way.
Cyberpunk.
Yeah, and then like you get like a game that just some guy was trying to make.
Right.
Like, does it run? That's fine. Just
Right.
get it out. And you're like, oh, this kind of looks like trash.
Yeah, exactly. I remember when the Cyberpunk thing happened. I remember the real big issue with that was I guess that they only let people do beta tests on new gen and PC versions.
Yes.
And then but they didn't let anybody test on the old generation consoles.
And they wouldn't let companies like IGN
Yeah.
were not allowed to use their own footage in their reviews.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So that couldn't mean a good thing.
Right.
That is very obviously bad. That's bad news.
Right. Yeah. It's not good. It's not
It's
good.
really funny if you go back and you look at the reviews, like as they were coming out, like before people had their hands on the game. IGN was trying really hard to like to be like diplomatic about the whole thing.
Right.
They're like, it's buggy in some areas and it's good in other areas,
Yeah.
but on the whole, it's it leaves something to be desired.
Yeah. It's a mess.
And then you get it, it's just a fucking dumpster fire. It was so bad.
What did they think was going to happen when they went, here you go? They just
it got delayed 7 times.
right. Delay it again.
Each delay was a year long.
Delay it again.
Just delay it again until it's fucking ready to go.
Honestly, what you could have done is been like, look, we're going to show you why we're delaying this.
Here's what it looks like right now.
And everybody be like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, that's fine. You take your time.
Take
Keep
your time.
working on it.
And instead of being like, here you go. It's like,
It's just a big fucking steamy turd.
Yeah. Everybody's like, the fuck is
What
this?
is this?
Think I'm my dick clipping through my pants?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of reading up on like why the gaming industry as a whole lately, like the past like 15 years, it's been a minute since it's been like this. It seems very deceptive, and
Right.
it seems very, it's very rare for anybody to release something that works right.
Right.
On release day. When they rebooted Call of Duty Modern Warfare, when they rebooted that one in 2019, the next day after it launched, there was an 80 gig update.
Like what?
Like my Xbox's hard drive is only 500.
Right.
And you're telling me that 80 of it is
Yeah.
for an update just so this fucking thing will work?
Right.
And why is that on me?
Right.
Why didn't you do that?
Right.
You made it. So then you have studios that come out like id Software and Bethesda, who made Doom Eternal.
Yeah.
The entire file size for Doom Eternal is like 40 gigs.
Right.
It's still, it's a good amount, but
Right.
it's not fucking, 120 I think was the file size for the game, and then of course the 80 gigs for the update.
Ugh.
And when Doom Eternal released, it worked.
Right.
The bare minimum should be that your product works.
Exactly.
You can add bells and whistles later.
Right.
Does it function?
Yeah. Does it function as advertised? That'd be like if you bought a car and then like you drove it off and it just stopped working.
Yeah.
Like you drove it off the lot and it
all
like
four
that.
wheels fell
and
off
all
of
four
it.
wheels fell off and they go, well, we'll take it in the back. It's going to cost you another $6,000. Come back one day, we'll give it to you. Yeah. You'd be pissed.
And it's not a used car you bought.
Right.
This is a brand new car. You've seen all the crazy ads and all the great reviews. Wouldn't you feel that you were lied to in some capacity?
Right. And it's not only you, but everybody else that's bought that fucking car.
Yeah. It's an endemic.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's happening to everyone. That's why, there's this huge push against like pre-orders.
Right.
Don't pre-order games. Do not pre-order games. Because they're counting on that.
Right.
They get like this influx of cash so that they can afford to fix the game after they launch it in its broken state.
Right.
So the whole thing can really be traced back to Xbox Live.
No.
Because Xbox Live was like the first live service for consoles.
Right.
And it alone, generated more money from Microsoft than all of their other products combined.
Right.
So it was a huge cash cow. So the thing about a live service is it allowed developers to do a little bit of quality control after the game had launched.
Right.
See, like it used to be, then once you ship that fucking thing out the door, that's it. Whatever state that game's in, that's how it is.
Right.
But then they were like, oh, wait a second, we can kind of fix these things post-launch.
No.
And for a long time, you didn't see a ton of that. They were still trying to make it work right before, it went gold or whatever.
Right.
And you shipped out physical copies. And then very slowly, it started getting to like, oh, we'll just kind of release it in this quasi-working state, and then, we'll throw out a patch, a week down the road. And then it got to the point where you have games like Battlefield 2042 that came out that it ran at like 2 frames per second, and it just didn't fucking work.
No.
And there was like all these like features that they stripped from the game so that they could add them later as an attaboy. There you go, like throw us a bone.
No.
It didn't have a scoreboard. Like after the match is over, you couldn't see how you did. It's like, imagine if you played a football game and nobody kept score.
Yeah. He's like, so how'd it go?
I don't know.
No.
I couldn't tell you. Felt pretty good, I guess.
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty. Well, I know for a fact, like you have, like especially, I think it's a big deal, obviously, with the first person shooters and everything, because
those are popular. That's what's
those are popular, obviously, and those. There's not a whole lot of first person shooters that are story driven. A lot of it is
very multiplayer focused.
Very multiplayer focused. So obviously, those in particular are going to have big issues with these launches and everything, just simply based on the fact that they're betting that they're going to give you just enough to kind of get you to be like, hey, we launched the game, like stick around, we'll fix this mess.
Yeah. In the meantime, buy the loot boxes and the skins and all that.
And then another really bad one that a lot of like sports games are really bad with that too.
Yep.
Like Madden is awful. FIFA's awful. 2K, NBA 2K is awful. Like all of these, like, and I don't want to put it on the devs because I don't think it's not necessarily the devs that are creating the game, that are coding it and everything and working on it.
They probably want to make something good.
They want to make something good, but just for the plain fact that they're releasing something every single year, like that agile cycle must be hell.
Yeah.
There's no way I would ever want to be a dev for any one of those companies.
No. I wouldn't want to work under EA.
No. Fuck no.
Or Activision or Blizzard.
Or 2K.
Yeah, none of them.
None of them. There's no way. No way I'd ever want to work for them.
Because game development is such an arduous thing.
Yes.
There are so many like pieces that have to function 100% perfectly.
Right.
Just to even get any kind of like production done.
Right. I mean, you essentially have to start with the physics engine.
Yeah.
In order to get anything to work properly.
Yeah.
And then you have to have somebody come in that's going to be doing like all of your set like designs and scripting and all that stuff.
You got to have an artist.
Yep. I mean, there's lots of different
music,
and then you have to at some point you have to get it in there, and then you have to start doing QA testing.
Yeah,
and like you're doing QA testing probably in chunks and sprints, and then like at the end you have to be like, oh God, I hope that we covered our QA testing covered this section, but what we fixed here is also fixed down the road here.
Yeah.
Right? Because it might be that we fixed it here, but that problem might pop up later. We didn't fix it down here.
Yeah. It's like we didn't know that, there's going to be things that your customers are going to find that you would have never even thought to try and look for.
Right. They're going to attempt to break the game.
Yeah. There are people who do it on purpose.
Right.
So, if that's the production cycle, how can you release something in a good quality shape every single year?
Right.
You can't. It can't be done.
Right.
And there's huge turnover with employees because of the crunch. People can't work like that.
No.
Year to year to year. They cannot do it.
No.
So it's
this is fucking turnover.
Yeah, it's just a fucking meat grinder.
Yeah, just chews them up, spits them out.
That's why I try not to like shit on devs too much, because I know they're just doing what they're told.
No, the issue that I have with the company is not the devs. Because the company that I work for now, I'm not a dev, but I work with a particular piece of software, and I have to do a lot of configuration with it.
Yeah,
it's like, so I also not to the same, like I'm not doing scripting and everything like they're doing, and like coding and everything. Like
I do
a lot
of the same steps.
I do a little bit of it,
yeah.
But it's a lot of it is like there's crunch with the projects that I work on too, because you have to go through all these sprints and get all this stuff done. It's like, but most of it is the project managers.
Yeah.
They're the problem.
Yeah, too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah, there's too many cooks in the kitchen, especially like when you have a bunch of project managers working on it. It's like you really only need one project manager.
Yeah.
It's like, and then they should be like, hey, here's what we got going on, and we're going to do a rough outline of how this project should progress.
Yeah.
And guess what? If you get to where you're extending because of QA testing or whatever, then that's just the way that it is.
Yeah, because obviously it needs it.
Right.
Because if your QA is going on for a long time, that means that there's problems you have to fix. Right,
exactly.
Yeah. I remember, like, back when I was younger, there was this commercial that used to come on all the time for some college, like a technical school, where you could become like a game designer. And
Everest.
It might have been.
I think they got shut down.
But it was like these two dudes are like sitting on a couch, and they're playing like some fake game that was made for the commercial called like Wizard Man or some shit like that.
Somebody that has no idea.
No idea what's a video game, yeah. And like this woman walks in, she's like, "Hey guys, I need you to tighten up the graphics on level 3." And they're like, "We're on it, boss." And they look at each other like, "Can you believe we do this for our job?" And it was like, of course, as a dumb kid, I was like, "What, they get to play video games for their job?" No. It's nothing like that.
No.
It's just hell, is what it is. Because when you're like, when you're doing QA testing on a video game, you have to think about every single possible button input that some brain dead idiot video game player is going to sit there and do at 4 a.m. stoned out of his mind.
Right.
Like, you have to walk around all the edges of the maps and jump up and down. What happens if I press B 3 times over here?
Right.
Like, how do you even...
But not only that, but I bet you a lot of those QA testers are also the people that are going and doing the bug fixes for it, too.
Oh, yeah.
I bet it's not... They're
doing
not
both
just,
jobs?
You're probably doing both jobs.
You're not reporting it to someone, like, you're finding it and fixing it. Yeah.
I mean, they probably have like Slack channels where they go in and it's like, hey, like I found something so-and-so, but I'm probably backed up with 15 other things that I have to do.
Yeah, and it's so is everyone else.
Right, and they're like, yeah, join the club.
When we were talking about like FIFA and things like that, I think it was FIFA 2020. 2020.
Oh, the COVID edition.
Yeah, COVID edition.
People like coughing on each other.
Yeah, this is like cardboard cutouts in the stands. No, it was they got found out they were basically just reskinning the previous year's game.
Oh, I did hear about that.
Because there was like in a soccer stadium you have like, or around the edges of the field there's like a marquee sign for advertisements and stuff.
Yeah.
And so they would work in-game advertisements for like Boost Mobile, whatever it happens to be. But there was an advertisement that came up for FIFA 2019. They never went and changed that. So they literally took the same game from last year and put a different cover on it and sold it, and it fucking flew off the shelves like hotcakes.
Yeah. And you know, once somebody found out, they're like, who did the QA testing?
Like, well, nobody. It was the same game from last year. So,
like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's just something I would never, ever want to do.
No, well, it's like, hey, you love video games? You want to not love them?
Yeah, you want to hate them really bad? Like, you remember, like, all the stories that were coming out with, like, how bad crunch was when Red Dead Redemption 2 was in development?
Yes, I do remember that.
And, like, people were, like, working, like, 90-hour weeks or something insane like that. Like, you literally just lived and breathed working on that game.
Yeah, I mean, there's stories of that, like with Halo 2, when they were
Halo 2 was
Halo
that
2,
way.
yeah.
The difference between those two things, though, is that Halo 2 was like a passion project.
Right, correct.
And it was a bunch of guys who, you know, they were working on it that much because they wanted to.
Right.
And then you have with Red Dead Redemption 2, they were like being whip cracked into working that much. So it's a little bit different.
Like, it was like, I hate it here.
Yeah. But think about the production, too. Everything's got to be real cinematic. You got to have an actual orchestra doing the music.
Right.
Professional voice actors. Just money, 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 money.
Right.
All the way up and down.
I think it would be insane, you know, especially, it's like I said, it's like the projects that I work on, it's very specific, like the software that I work with. Like, I couldn't imagine being like the main project manager for like something like a large scale, like think of being the main project manager for Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
As like, you have to be like, well, where are we on track for, like, where's the voice acting at? Have we gotten all the lines done? Are the lines the way that we want them?
Yeah. Do the penises stay inside the pants?
Right. It's like, do we have all the music that, like, is all the music taken care of? Is all of the like when somebody shoots a gun, like, are all those sound effects, are all those taken care of?
Yeah, does the gun recoil?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, that would be hell.
And also knowing what state that game was in when it released. Because they released it on Christmas, of course. Right. Because that's the huge, that's the biggest, like, sales season. Like, it's got to be out by Christmas.
Right.
Yeah, I would rather fucking die.
Yeah, no thank you.
Do that.
Nope. Well, no part of it.
And also being the guy that has to catch the flack for all that. And you know, I hate to say it, but gamers, quote unquote gamers, are unstable. Yeah. They're a lot of fuckheads.
Right.
I don't call myself a gamer because I know the people that do call themselves gamers are a bunch of weirdos. Right. I just like to play video games. Right. That's it. It begins and it ends there.
Yeah. I'm a video game enjoyer.
Yeah. But when Cyberpunk released in the state that it did, people were getting death threats.
That's
they had to evacuate. CD Projekt Red had to evacuate their office a couple times, I'm pretty sure, because of like bomb threats and stuff and shit like that. Fucking stupid. The same thing happened to I think is it Hello Games that did No Man's Sky? Same thing happened to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so it's. I just don't understand.
It's just so detached. It's such a you're so detached from reality.
Like that's your biggest thing is like your video game doesn't work right.
Yeah, you're gonna kill somebody.
You're gonna kill somebody over it.
Yeah, because your game doesn't work.
Guess what? Then your game's never gonna work right.
Yeah,
because you killed the person that would have fixed it. You fucking idiot. Like, you big fucking titty baby.
You know, and it seems to be the only video games are that way. Because if a movie comes out and it sucks, nobody sends a bomb to Quentin Tarantino's house. You know what I mean? Right. I mean, like, there's been movies that I looked forward to that ended up being real fucking stinkers.
Yeah, like, the fuck is this?
And I just said, "Oh, this stinks," and I went to something else.
Right.
How many times have I picked up a video game like, "Oh, this stinks," and I just did something else.
Right.
I wasn't like, "I'm going to fucking kill someone," because this isn't as good as I want it to be. Right.
Yeah, I don't understand like the level of mental instability.
Yeah.
Amongst people that Maybe it's just people that are mentally unstable like that kind of flock towards video games.
Because it's like a fantasy world?
Yeah, because it's like they don't have any self-control like in their own lives, maybe.
Yeah. It could be something like that.
So maybe any type of control that they had is now
some kind of agency.
Yeah, some kind of agency that they had has now been taken away because the person didn't release the game in the state it was supposed to be released in.
Yeah.
It's like when in fact it's like you've done nothing to like make sure that the game would have been released in the state that it was supposed to be in. It's like you've provided no qualities to society.
like that one of our Super Cringe Thursday posts was that kid that was shitting himself while playing video games.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that? I can't think of a single thing that I love to do so much that it would stop me from getting up and going to take a shit if I had to.
No.
Not a single thing. I don't care if I was like sitting there playing like roulette and every number I was betting on was hitting.
Yep.
I would not shit myself to continue sit there and do that.
No. Yeah, I just don't.
But there's nobody sitting in a movie theater who's enjoying the movie so much.
And they just shit themselves.
They shit themselves. They're like, oh no, I've got to go to the bathroom. They get up and leave. So why is it that video games attracts those freaks? I don't know.
I don't fucking know. I just don't understand like the amount of mental instability in the whole. Well, I mean, you look at like the relaunch that they did of like G4 TV. There's some pretty fucking mentally unstable people.
Yeah,
that were part of that debacle.
Yeah, that was a debacle. That was so bad. Who was it? Who was that lady that yelled at the camera and shut the whole thing down?
The one that had she had like the frost white hair.
Yeah.
She like Jack Frost.
Yeah, she got over there and she like went on some kind of
with the septum ring.
Yeah, she went on some kind of like Tumblr spiel.
Yeah.
On TV.
Yeah.
Not on like a blog.
Yeah.
On TV.
The whole thing was just cringe and it's like
and like the day after it was done.
Yeah.
G4
like,
TV
this is over.
done.
This is done. Well, I remember when G4 TV came out, like middle school maybe when that came out.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, and like they had a bunch of some really good shows on there.
Great shows, yeah. X-Play, Attack of the Show.
I think that's initially they hosted MXC on there some.
MXC was on there, yeah.
Which one of the best shows.
One of the best shows ever.
One of the best shows that has ever graced the airwaves. Yeah.
I wonder how they got away with doing that. Because all it was a voiceover of a Japanese game show.
It's just American people shitting on Japanese people. That's all it was.
It was so good. The actual show is called like Takeshi's Challenge.
Yeah.
And it was a game show that aired in Japan.
No.
Like in like the 80s.
Yeah.
And then Americans got a hold of it in like the early 2000s and then like recorded voiceovers and made people say stupid shit. Yeah. And then they were just like, hey, we made a show. It was like, no, you didn't. You didn't make this show. It'd be like if me and you sat here and recorded voice lines and put it over MASH and re-released it, called it our show.
Yeah, I wonder if maybe they bought the rights for it or something from the studio that owned it.
Or it went into like public domain or something.
Maybe.
But it was a foreign...
I don't know how.
thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't know how that really works as far as public domain's concerned. Maybe with foreign, like internet, like intellectual property rights and everything.
Yeah, I have no idea. I'm glad that they did whatever they did.
I'm glad that they did.
It's one of the best shows to have ever existed.
There were so many. Like Wipeout tried to like kind of recreate it or whatever, but you can't recreate it.
No.
Because people really got hurt.
Yes, they did. They got injured.
Yeah, and that was the best part.
Yeah. One of my favorite ones that they would do is they had this huge, like gigantic mud pit The thing was like the size of a football field, and they would have like this air cannon launch a soccer ball.
Oh, I think I know which one you're talking about.
1,000 feet in the air, and they would send this person out into the mud pit, and they would be looking up, trying to catch the soccer ball. And this one woman ran out there, and she was trying to catch it, and that thing fucking rocked her world, dude. It hit her so fucking hard.
Because she was looking up.
I mean, it hit her square in the nose, and it was. I mean, it was
like ricocheted.
It was moving, man. It's like I remember it hit her so hard that the trajectory of the ball changed by 90 degrees. It hit her in the face from straight down, and then it shot directly off camera. Like off to the right.
Oh, God. One of my other favorite ones is where they would have them, like, they had, like, the fake doors.
Yeah.
And, like, some of them would just be, like
plywood.
Like plywood.
And they'd run into them in full sprint.
I remember one, like, this dude, like, put his head down, like he was, like
he's going to bull charge it?
He's going to bull charge it. It's, like, crushed his spine. He, like, hit the door, like, crumpled up on the ground.
He hit it so hard that, like, the whole set moved. The whole set, like, kind of shifted a little bit.
I just remember he, like, fell on the ground and just kind of laid there.
What an incredible show.
Oh.
Let's see, with Wipeout, everything's like covered in foam pads,
right.
and people have like helmets and knee pads and shit like that.
Right.
Now, MXC sent people out in like their civvies.
Yeah.
Right into this wall.
Yeah, they didn't give a fuck about those people. I like that one, and what was the other one where they had like the big, like they had like that big foam rock that would roll down the thing.
Oh, they had to like try and run up the hill.
Right.
Yeah.
And I remember like they'd have people like you could like get in like
you kind of like duck into an alcove.
Yeah,
and
but
get out
unless
of the
somebody
way.
was in there and they'd like shove you out.
Yeah.
And this dude was like fighting this dude.
I remember that one because the dude who was hiding in the alcove, the contestant ran up the hill and he tried to duck into that alcove, and the dude like shoved him really fucking hard, and he fell backwards, and the rock just rolled over him. And then he was like struggling to get back up on his feet, and he was kind of on all fours, but they had sent another one down. And it just crashes right into the top of his head.
Oh, God.
There was some good TV back in the day.
But yeah, like G4 had like all these amazing shows, and then I don't really know what happened to it. It just kind of went away.
It turned into the Ninja Warrior channel.
Oh, is that what happened to it?
Like, they played Ninja Warrior back to back for 24 hours a day. Which, Ninja Warrior is a great show.
Yeah.
But, I mean...
So it's like the same thing that happened to MTV, where it just became like Rob Dyrdek TV.
I think the advent of the internet really took away a lot of the reason for G4 to even exist. Because,
right. Well, then you had YouTube channels that were recreating.
Yeah.
You had people that you would find people on YouTube that you would trust.
Yeah.
And go to them for reviews and that kind of stuff, right?
Which is what a lot of G4 TV was. I mean, a lot of the different shows on that channel were like X-Play would review things like upcoming games or like retro titles, and they were very like video game focused. Right. But then you had like Gadget Prawn, which was just they would tell you about the upcoming like doodads that were coming out, like Raspberry Pi and like this, that, and the other.
Right.
And so when people started doing that on their own free time on the internet, and people stopped watching TV for it. It was kind of a big rug pull for them. Right. Which sucked because a lot of those shows were really good. The production value was great. The hosts were great, like Adam Sessler and was it Morgan Webb?
Yep.
From X-Play. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were great. G4 in its heyday was a great channel.
Yeah. Well, I remember. Yeah, a lot of stuff has changed, especially just kind of around the whole video game industry. Especially, I remember being like maybe early middle school, like maybe 6th grade or so. Like I remember the magazines were real big back then. Like you had like
used to have Game Informer.
Game Informer was like a big one. Yeah. Like they would, I remember we would get that in the mail, and it would have all of the games, like the upcoming games, and they'd write all these big articles about games that had recent releases and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And I remember in the back of it, they and it, like towards the back of the issue or whatever, they would cover all the games that had recently come out, and they would give them a rating or score or whatever, and they would kind of give like their rundown. Yeah. And of course, like I'm looking for like, oh, what's the highest rated ones? And then, a lot of them were like ended up like 7s, 6s were kind of where everything kind of fell. But every once in a while,
you get a little stinker in there.
You get one where somebody would be like 0.5. Yeah. I'm like, ooh, what is this?
Scathing. Game Informer had some pretty scathing reviews. Right. Like they did not like if your shit sucked, they were going to write about it.
Yeah, some of those were pretty funny articles that they would like little things that they would write. They'd be like, "This game is unsavable."
Yeah, this game is a time vampire. Is what I read one time. I was like, "Time vampire? Fuck." I like they would do like a lot of like like reader submissions, like artwork and stuff, and it was really cool to see like how talented some of the people, who were reading the magazine were at like drawing characters and stuff. And that, like I said, that was before the internet was what it was. Right. Where if you wanted to, you push your artwork anywhere, millions of people see it. It used to be you'd have to mail it into a magazine and have it printed.
And there's probably no telling like the amount of just horse shit that they got.
Oh yeah,
yeah, that they had like
scribbled on a fucking napkin.
They had to like sift through all this bullshit so they can get to like the halfway decent like fan submissions, like reader submissions and shit. Whereas like now it's like you are responsible for sifting through all the horse shit.
All that has fallen onto you.
And then like once you finally get to something decent, you're like, I don't give a fuck about this anymore.
Yeah, I find that, especially like with YouTube and things like that, you'll stumble across things more often than like being told about it and going to watch it. Like usually you just kind of happen upon a thing that you really like, a creator that you really like, right? And you follow them for a long time, or back in the day you kind of had to be told where to go to find things. Like I know with there's a YouTuber that I like to watch sometimes called Agman. You and I both I think watch Agman. Mm-hmm. So I first discovered him back when he was doing his he did like a 10-part series on why Halo 5 was so bad. Yeah. And that was when I found him. Mm-hmm. And I liked his style and I liked the way he did his videos. And I think back then he had like 300,000 subscribers, which is nothing to. I mean, that's not chump change. People, that's a lot of fucking subscribers. And I think now he's up over 2 million. And that was
that's crazy.
A year and a half ago.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and the thing with YouTube too is especially like once you see somebody kind of cross the 500,000, once you see somebody get up over like 100,000, that's sort of, especially on YouTube. There's one of two ways that can go. Either they stay there and they don't grow anymore. Yeah. Or they grow exponentially. Yeah. And that's really sort of I feel like the 100,000 mark for like a YouTube creator, like that's really.
That's like the fork in the road.
Right. That's the fork in the road. It's like either your channel is going to grow massive, is going to get massive, you're going to have well over 1 million subscribers, or that's about as far as you're probably going to go.
Yeah. And then you'll have like those, top 1% kind of guys like PewDiePie, who's got over 100 million people subscribed to him. Right. Or Mr. Beast. You know who Mr. Beast is? Yeah. So I think I
kind of just like mindlessly watch his stuff sometimes.
I watched a clip of him on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he kind of mentioned that, accumulatively over all his different channels that he has over 200 million subscribers. Yeah, and it was really kind of cool because he's younger than both of us. I think he's 26. Yeah. And it was cool to kind of hear him talk about how. You could just really see that his passion was
YouTube.
making videos.
Right.
Because he was showing how almost every single penny that he earns on his videos,
he puts it right back in.
He goes right back into making new videos.
Right.
So like when he did his Squid Games video, which I think has 350 million views.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 30-minute long video. It cost him $4.2 million to make.
That's insane.
Like production,
right?
And all the different things it took, like
and
building
then whatever
the set.
he's paying out for the cash prize. At the end.
Whatever he's paying. It was, I think the grand prize at the end of the thing was like $456,000.
Right.
So all said and done, it was $4.2 million. So he was like, that's how much it costs to make that video.
Right.
And he was like, and we made that back like within like the first 10 hours of it being live.
Right.
Which is fucking bananas.
Right.
And he doesn't pocket any of that.
Right.
Like, it goes right back into making new stuff. And it's cool to see him talk about it because you can tell when somebody's passionate about something. You can really, it's very earnest.
Yeah.
And the dude's a workhorse.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he just, he just eats, sleeps, breathes, and shits YouTube.
Yeah.
And it shows.
Right.
He's
put a lot of time and a lot of thought and a lot of effort.
Yeah.
Into making videos.
Yeah, big time. And I like that, he's not like a douchebag.
Normal dude.
I mean, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
The way he's been presented to me in the videos I've seen,
Right.
he seems like a normal guy.
I think that at this point, if he was not earnest and genuine,
it would have come out
to a point.
Yeah.
Right. Then it would have come out by now. Like, yo, this dude's a fucking.
Yeah, if you're a piece of shit, that gets out.
This dude fucking sucks. But it seems like that's not the case.
Yeah. He was telling this one story about how he lived well under his means.
Right.
So like at the time, like his channel was making tens of millions of dollars every year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like net revenue.
Right.
But he's putting all that back into his videos so for him, his liquidity was very, very low. I mean, like he was kind of living probably right around where we are, our quality of life.
Right.
But in his house, he's like, I ended up having to get a nice house for security reasons.
Yeah.
He's like, because people started breaking into my house and stealing like cash that I had, that I was going to give away in a video or whatever.
Right.
And he had his laptop was like sitting on his dinner table or something like that. And he had a sticky note like on the laptop that said like Bitcoin password.
Oh no.
And somebody broke into his house and they stole a bunch of shit. And he said when he got home, he saw his front door was kicked in. He was like, he immediately thought like, fuck, that Bitcoin is all gone. He had like $2 million in Bitcoin that he was going to use for a video.
Yeah.
And he beelined it. He said his laptop was still sitting there.
Yeah.
With the password right there on it.
No.
Yeah, and they didn't take it. They didn't, I guess they didn't see it or whatever. But, yeah, he had to, it was interesting to hear him talk about, like, all the hard lessons that he had to learn.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's stuff that I'll never have to worry about.
Right.
But it is cool to see that stuff.
Well, and it's also, I think for me, like you said, like just an outside person that's looking in, it seems like he's a pretty genuine person. Like, so it's always nice to see somebody who is a genuine person succeed, and obviously somebody that works very hard.
Yeah,
and is a genuine person,
a lot of people.
right? And he's helped a lot of people.
Yeah,
so that's always nice to see somebody sort of break through in
a ton of charity stuff.
Right.
He'll hop on like Twitch and find people who are streaming to nobody.
Right.
Because,
give them $10,000.
For every one streamer that has 1 million viewers, there's 1 million streamers that have no viewers.
Like a ninja type situation.
Yeah. And he'll just hop in like this person who's streaming like Minecraft and give him $10,000.
Right.
And I like he'll do these videos where he like gives away a private jet and he'll give away a private island. And it's like, well, normal people aren't going to have uses for that stuff. He's like, so we usually what we'll end up doing is buying it back from them.
Right.
So they end up getting just like, the cold cash for it.
Right.
Like, but if they wanted to keep it, they totally could. So.
Yeah, he's I've seen him do that a couple times, like with the island and everything, and him being like, he's like, yeah, but we'll just use it for another video.
Yeah.
He's like, so it's a win-win.
Yeah. Like they get to walk away with,
$500,000,
and we get to keep the island.
Right.
Streaming. When I just thought about this was, I think streaming is going to be the new thing. I think that was the boat that I missed. Because like growing up, I was always like, I'm always going to keep up with the new whatever the new thing is, the new fads, whatever. No. And streaming happened, and I was like, I don't get this. And it reminded me that I don't know if we talked about it on the podcast before, but TwitchCon happened a little while ago.
Yeah.
And at TwitchCon, which is a big convention for anybody doesn't know, Twitch is like a streaming platform.
Owned by Amazon?
I think so, yeah. Sony.
Sony owns them now? I thought Amazon owned them because I thought they were hosted by Amazon Web Services.
It might be. I don't know why I'm thinking Sony.
Is Twitch? Did they used to be Justin TV?
They bought out Justin TV.
Okay.
Justin TV was like the primordial ooze of streaming sites.
Right. Because remember, you used to be able to like people would stream like pay-per-view stuff, and you could get on there and watch it for free.
But yeah, so at TwitchCon, there's
a real seedy place.
Yeah, it's very seedy. They had a little booth set up. I think Lenovo had it set up, and it was a foam pit. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. And they would have like content creators or streamers, like these people. They would come and stand in the foam pit, like up on these pedestals, and they would. They have like the big thing that looks like a double-ended cotton swab. Yeah. And they would try to knock each other off the pedestal.
Pugil sticks.
Yeah. And they would try to knock each other into the foam pit. So there was these two streamers who were up there. One of them was a porn star, or ex-porn star. Or it's not even an ex-porn star. She was an active porn star at the time. Okay. She was in there with some other girl, and they were fighting each other, and the porn star knocked the other one off. And she goes to celebrate, and she jumps up in the air, and she does like a split thing, and she touches her toes up in the air, and she lands on her ass in the foam pit, which would typically not be an issue. Typically would not be an issue. But the thing was a foot deep on a concrete floor, and she shattered her fucking tailbone and like broke a bunch of vertebrae. She broke her back. Spinal. But unlike Mike Tyson, her shit was fucked. So she ended up like having to get a bunch of vertebrae fused and like had several spinal surgeries, and she has to do like PT and everything like this.
Yeah. Now, was this the spicy creator?
Yeah. So she was.
Okay. Well, then she's not doing too much spicy stuff right now.
Well,
then,
see,
probably.
That's the thing. Her chosen profession requires her body to be in working order.
Right.
And to be particularly athletic for the things that she does.
Right.
And when your spine is fused together, you kind of can't do that stuff anymore. And somebody had posted a picture of where, like, on her stream on Twitch, where she was, because what she does on Twitch is not pornographic. She just actually plays video games. But because she's a prolific porn star, she has a huge following.
Yeah, it's probably driving more people to the channel, right?
So apparently on one of her Twitch streams, she like lifted up the back of her shirt to show her scar, and it looks like they cut her open with a fucking bread knife. Like, it is the craziest looking fucking like scar. Like, I don't even know what I thought we had scalpels in this day and age. That thing looks wicked.
You imagine being like this person as like, I've made some pretty questionable life decisions thus far. Using my body to make money in ways that is frowned upon by most of polite society.
I delivered the appetite to a carnal desire.
But that mostly just made me money. My soul died a little bit. But the one thing that changed my life forever was at TwitchCon.
Yeah.
When I decided to do a toe touch and crack my ass off the floor.
It's so bad. If you go and you watch the video,
I've watched it. It's bad.
It's rough.
Yeah.
You can just see it like ripple through her body, like out the top of her head. It's so fucking bad.
Ugh. It's not good.
Like if you've ever bumped your tailbone on anything,
Yeah.
or like fallen on your butt kind of hard,
Yeah.
it hurts.
Yeah.
It sucks. I mean, she fucked her shit up. Cracked it like a peanut.
Yeah, and there's when you crack your tailbone or break your tailbone, like there's nothing you can do to get comfortable.
No.
So
There's no comfortable position to get in.
So, it might be years down the road. This person might have an issue with pain medication.
Yeah.
Because, like, the amount of pain that you were in.
Yeah. The only way you're going to get any sleep is if you're fucked up on pain meds.
Right.
And you can't, like, twist and turn and
Nope.
be a normal person.
Nope.
Yeah, you're just all stove up.
Ugh.
Like an action figure.
Yeah. Fucking Lenovo.
Thanks, Lenovo.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, how did this get a green light?
Yeah.
Like, the thing's a foot deep and it's a concrete floor under there, and they're like, oh, people will just land on the foam, they'll be fine. Like, have you ever seen an actual foam pit? They're like 8 feet deep.
Yeah, it's like 5 to 6 foot deep.
Yeah.
Like we've taken my daughter. There's a place in one of the town, Hiram, I think, has like a trampoline thing or whatever, and they've got a foam pit.
Yeah.
Right, but it's pretty deep. It's like 6 foot deep.
Like she disappears in it.
Yeah, like I jumped into it and it was like up to like my eyeballs.
Yeah. So it wasn't a foot deep.
Right.
On a concrete floor.
Exactly. It's like you would like jump into it and then like snap both your knees and like, oh God.
And she jumped so high.
Yeah.
She got up there, man.
She had 100% faith that when she landed,
she was going to be okay.
that she was going to be okay. And she wasn't.
Oh, and I hate it for it that, it's not fair to her.
No.
I think somebody else.
Can you imagine being like the executive? It's like, don't.
No. Oh, it sucks. Oh shit, we're pretty far into this episode. I guess we need to bring in the podcast.
Yeah, well.
Real quick, shout out to Rachel, my friend Rachel, who listens to us, who constantly gives me shit for bringing in the podcast too late into the episode. We've done it again.
Yeah, there's another for you.
So, hello and welcome everybody to the 52nd episode of the Thicc Bois podcast. Our schedule is a little wacky right now. We've still got one more episode to release for you guys, so we're kind of doing this thing like 2 weeks ahead at this point.
Right.
So we're going to try and get back on the schedule here pretty soon. So yeah, before we go any further, thank you everybody for listening. I hope that you all had a wonderful New Year, and a Merry Christmas and all those good things. And hope that 2023 does not bring fire and ruin to us all.
Yeah.
It's about the best we can hope for right now.
What was it that the president put out a couple years ago? It was like a winter of blackness and death for those that didn't get the COVID vaccine or something.
What?
Yeah, I'm pretty certain.
What president said that? Biden said that?
Yeah, like he didn't say it, but it was
Whoever's
like
running his social media account.
Whoever was running the president's social media account, they had like the White House seal like on a tweet deal or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like a winter of death and destruction or something like that.
This is fucking Nebuchadnezzar. Some fucking biblical shit like that. Ruin and death.
Yeah, turn into a fucking salt pillar and
7 plagues upon ye who does not get the vaccine. Death and damnation upon your house.
Oh, God.
Oh, that's so ridiculous. That's so overly dramatic, too. But yeah, we're talking about injuries, and now this is not an injury, but it was an unfortunate thing that happened to me today, a few hours before you got here.
Oh.
So tonight I was making a pizza. Mm-hmm. I made a chicken, bacon, spinach Alfredo pizza, and it turned out great. But when you bake a pizza, you have to bake it like really hot, like 500 degrees. So the oven was like as hot as it was maxed out. And I put a lot of cheese on this thing. So some of the cheese fell off onto like the pizza tray and it started smoking.
Right.
And so I opened up the kitchen window and I went to open up the back door to kind of, let it air out some. And right next to our back door in the living room, there's this like metal thing that holds firewood. Mm-hmm. And I was going to use that to prop the door open, and I reached down to grab it, and I poked my finger right on some firewood, and I have a splinter underneath my fingernail at this very moment. Now, for those of you who have been listening to the podcast for any length of time, you probably know that fingernails freak me the fuck out.
Yeah, them and toenails.
Yeah, the number one thing that I cannot stand. So I've got this splinter stuck under my fingernail. I'm looking at it, and I'm like, I'm in a bad way.
Yeah.
Because there's not enough of it hanging out under the fingernail for me to even get at it.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to let it do what it does.
Right.
So hopefully it doesn't become gangrenous and I'll lose my finger.
Yeah, that's one thing I've never been able to do is, like, I'll see people, like, that'll get a splinter, like a deep one, like, in their hand or whatever.
Yeah.
And they'll just pick at it until, like, they can, like, get it up out of there. Like, somebody will take a needle and, like, stick it in there and,
like wrench it out.
Dig it out.
What the fuck?
Like, everything in my mind, like, is on red alert. Like, when I've tried to do that, it's like, no, we're not doing this.
Yeah.
Knock it off.
Yeah.
Stop it.
We're not going to mince the meat in our hand to try and get this fucking thing out.
Leave it alone.
I've got a little bit of this stuff that the vet gave us a long time ago. It's called drawing salve. Mm-hmm. And what it's supposed to do is, matter of fact, we got it because Lola had a stitch left in her stomach from when she was spayed. Mm-hmm. And they were like, just take this stuff and rub it around the stitch and it'll draw the stitch out.
No.
And that's kind of not exactly the way it works. What it does is it, like, softens the skin around whatever the thing is, that it can be pulled out easily. And I had a splinter on the tip of my finger once. Mm-hmm. It was in there. It was way in there.
No.
I couldn't get at it. I was like, well, I'm not about to sit here and turn this thing into ground beef trying to get a splinter on my finger. So I put that drawing salve on there.
Right.
And after about a week, I noticed one day that it had pushed out it's that I could just pulled it right out.
Huh, interesting.
So I'll probably use a little bit of that on this and just see what happens.
Yeah, pulling stitches out it's a wild, like the sensation is pretty wild. So, like, for those of you that know, like, that have listened to the podcast, you know that I sliced my finger open.
No, you sawed your finger open.
Yeah, I sawed my finger open with an aluminum foil box. And then so, like, I had the insurance that I had through the company that I worked for was really shitty. So we moved to Allison's insurance. Yeah. So, like, it was like $1,400 for this ER visit.
Oh my God.
So, and I was like, fuck that, I'm not going. I'll pull them myself.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. So I took a pair of like scissors used for, like, clipping fingernails and stuff.
Yeah, like a little, like, what would be like in a multi-tool.
Right. Yeah. And then so I took them and some tweezers and I boiled them in some water for like 5 minutes and then took them out and tried to get them as sanitary as I possibly could.
Yeah.
And then so I went through and clipped all of the 4 stitches that were in my finger.
Was the meat not tender?
It had been like a month at this point.
Oh, okay.
So like it had healed up, right? And so, like, pulling them out, like, it didn't necessarily hurt, like, but I could feel the pressure.
You feel like threading through your skin.
I could feel it threading through my skin, which was a wild sensation. To feel something like being pulled through the meat in my hand. Like, it was
like it's tunneling out.
Right. I was like, ooh.
Ew.
Like, especially, like, the ones up here weren't so bad, like, on the side.
Yeah.
It was the one that was, like, down here in the bottom.
Oh, and that
next to, like,
bit.
the crease in my finger.
Yeah.
Like, because that one, like, I could feel it, like, kind of run past the crease.
Ooh.
And, like, up and out. I was like, ugh, I don't know.
Well, you know, when I blew my thumb up, they pulled my stitches out a week later.
That's so wild. Why?
They stitched me up and they're like, come back in a week, we'll take the stitches out. And I was like, bro, I saw my bones today.
Right.
I don't know if a week, but
yeah, they told me like 2 weeks. I was like, I'm not, like, after 2 weeks, I was like, this thing is not healed up enough to take these stitches out.
Yeah. Well, they got my ass in there and pulled my stitches out a week later. And I, you know, right underneath the kidney stone, that was the worst pain I've ever experienced. Like, Mary and Dad both were there, and Mary was like, you turned as white as a piece of coffee paper. She was like, I thought you were about to pass out. It was so bad. And, like, the doctor that stitched me up, man, he stitched my shit up like a shoe. Like, I just had, like, these big knots all the way across.
Right.
And I've got, like, a pretty decent scar on there, and you can see where it was all pulled together.
No.
But, I mean, considering what he had to work with,
right.
There's not a lot going on right here.
Right.
That's skin and bone right there. Not much meat. So, I mean, he did what he could do. But yeah, that fucking sucked. I mean, it's all the way from one end to the other. That was crazy looking down at my thumb.
Yeah, you're like, oh.
And seeing my knuckle sticking out and being like, that's wrong.
Yeah, it's a pretty wild experience, like looking down and like seeing your own bones.
Yeah. Well, thank God the stitches that they put in my tongue were the dissolvable ones.
Oh.
Because I couldn't imagine the CIA torture it would have been to go and have them pull stitches out of my tongue.
I think
having them put them in was bad enough.
Yeah, I'd imagine. Like, I remember one of the most wild injuries I think I've ever seen, like not in person, that I've seen like on TV, was, speaking of Rob Dyrdek, I think it was actually on Ridiculousness.
Yeah.
Or no, there was a show at one time that like they came on MTV where they showed like it was like an injury show, right? Like it was like people getting injured. Like that was the whole premise of the show, right?
I'm trying to think of what that was called. I do know what you're talking about.
So
yeah.
I specifically remember there was one where this dude was like he was grinding down this rail with these inline skates.
I know which one you're talking about.
And he fell and he put his hand out, but the one that landed were the index finger and the middle finger.
Yeah.
And he snapped them back. And when he snapped them back, he got up and looked, and he just, like, his eyes went huge.
Yeah.
And he turns them to the camera, and the knuckles on the bottom part of his palm,
yeah,
it was just white because they had
busted through his palm. That was one of the fucking craziest things. You like unlocked that memory. I think I hid that one away. I remember seeing that on TV and being like, what the fuck? Yeah, it was the knuckles at the bottom of his fingers, like at the top of the ridge of your palm.
Right.
Those two right there where your fingers
It was
starts,
wild looking.
They had busted out of his palm.
It was insane.
Like, ta-da! Yeah. Here we are.
It was one of the most insane injuries I think I've ever seen. Like, how did you do this?
How did that leverage work? Like, to do that to the... God.
I don't know. Like, there's... The amount of injuries that I've seen with people that when they jump on wheels.
Yeah.
Like...
I think one of the worst ones I ever saw was the guy playing slam ball and snapped his ankle off.
Oh, and his foot was hanging
off.
Ugh.
For those of you who don't know, there was a show that used to come on called Slam Balls, where they would play basketball with like a trampoline court.
Yeah.
And one dude went up to like dunk the ball and come back down, and his foot landed half on and half off of the side of the trampoline, and the full force of his weight came down, and like a fulcrum, snapped his fucking foot off.
I remember a few years back, there was, it was like in the Sweet 16 tournament, there was a player from the University of Louisville that went up and came down, and he snapped his shin in half. And so it was like, it was a full fracture, like snapped there, like the bone had separated.
Yeah. Like all the way through.
Yeah, it came all the way through. It was sticking out of his leg. And so, like, in the picture, you see him, like, grabbing it, like, ah!
Oh, yeah.
And so somebody took Rafiki and put Simba.
Like it's fucking Pride Rock. That's fucked up. Oh, man.
Oh, God.
Dude's leg is hanging off.
And, you know, the craziest part about it is, like, modern medicine, they can be like, oh, we'll just stick that thing right back in there and we'll wrap it up.
Good as new.
Good as new. Like, it'll take some time to heal.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to have a pretty wild scar.
Yeah.
But for the most part, you're not going to lose your leg.
Yeah.
Like, you'll still have your leg. You'll be able to do stuff and get around.
30, 40 years ago, that bitch would have been gone.
But, like, during, like, the fucking Civil War, they'd be like, you're fucked. Like, we're going to have to saw that thing off at the knee.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing we can do to fix that.
Fold your fucking skin flap up like a Chinese dumpling. And then it'll probably get infected.
And then we're going to take like a cast iron skillet, heat it up real hot, and smack it on the bottom of that thing.
Here you go, buddy. Wasn't it worth keeping slaves?
And like, give you this whiskey, like, you're going to need this.
Yeah. Oh, my God. The bad thing was, like, they were shooting each other with those fucking muskets. And those...
There's, like, no rifling.
Yeah, those round balls were not... So you get shot with, like,
subsonic.
Yeah. You get shot with, like, a 9mm bullet, and it passes through you. The worst part of that is going to be the exit wound.
Right.
Because it has slowed down in your body.
Right.
So those things, those balls were coming at you and hitting you, and then they would just kind of go off into your body somewhere and just channel through all that meat, leave a nice little trench from your solar plexus down to your pelvis, and you just lay there and scream in agony.
Pinballs inside of you.
Yeah. Ding, 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 ding.
Or like you get hit by, there's like a musket ball that like knocks your fucking arm off.
Yeah.
Like,
do you ever see that picture of that?
Because it's not traveling fast enough to go through your arm.
Yeah.
It's just going to snatch the fucking thing off.
Yeah, take it with it.
Ugh, what a fucking... I think I've said this before. What a fucking awful time to be alive.
Yeah, absolutely. There's this picture I've seen of a chest plate that they have from some war. I don't remember which one it was, but it was worn by an infantryman who got hit with a cannonball, dead center of his chest, and the breastplate is like caved in. It's a cannonball-sized hole in the chest, and there was a dude in that thing.
Yeah, imagine being the poor schmuck that got hit.
It'd be like that guy from Kung Pao.
He punched a
hole, a clean plug out of him.
Just sitting in the back, sitting in the back flopping.
All you can hope is that dude died immediately.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know if there's his heart's right there, but it probably wasn't.
Crushes sternum.
Yeah, it probably wasn't an immediate death.
No.
I hope that he died before he realized he had a cannonball-sized hole in his body. And he didn't have to experience the existential dread of what that is. I was.
Have you ever thought what? Who was the first person? Who was the first people to fight a war where they came up with swords and stuff?
Yeah.
Like combat was for a very long time.
Yeah.
And then somebody's pointing a stick at them. And they're like, well, look at this jackass.
Yeah.
And
he's got a blunt spear.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, somebody's head explodes next to him. Like, ah! What the fuck?
I think actually that was the Chinese to the Japanese.
Yeah.
Because samurais still existed during the Civil War.
Did they?
Yes. Well, yeah, think about the movie Last Samurai.
That's true.
So, I mean, they had Gatling guns, and they would go over there to these samurai people who lived out in the rural parts of the forests of Japan who never so much as seen a firework.
Yeah.
They're running up on horseback with their paper armor that's meant to stop arrows.
Right.
And then a dude gets a fucking, half of him is gone now.
Swiss cheese.
Yeah. So that must have been the biggest mindfuck ever.
You imagine what kind of dark magic they thought.
Oh, they would have had to have thought that it
we
was
have angered all of the gods.
Yeah, they would have had to have thought that's what it was, because that's so many years of technological advancement that they can't even comprehend what they're being killed with.
So was it during World War II they had a death ray, but it just kind of oozed everywhere?
Yeah, because you can't direct radiation. You fucking fools. They just turned it on. I'm like, turn it off, turn it off. Oh, man. That's you know what a gamma cannon is, don't you?
No, but I can imagine that's probably not too great.
It's stray gamma radiation that's traveling through the universe.
Yeah.
And the bad thing about gamma waves is that it goes through everything.
No.
There's nothing that stops gamma radiation. I don't think lead stops gamma radiation. Now, the good thing is that it doesn't occur here on Earth, like at all, I'm pretty sure.
No.
But it is. There's stray gamma waves that travel through the universe and just they just go and they
kill things. Yeah.
Kill things. Yeah. So it's entirely possible that one of those could pass through Earth and literally everyone and everything dies instantaneously, and we never even knew that it happened.
That's horrific.
I'm okay with it because I would know that it happened.
I guess so.
I wouldn't be around to be like, oh, that sucked.
Yeah.
Speaking of radiation, there's something I've been wanting to talk about on the podcast. There's been a lot of breakthroughs recently with fusion technology. I don't know if you've been reading about any of that or seen anything about it.
I saw something posted the other day. I didn't get a chance to kind of dive into it, though.
So just two quick things before we get out of here. I don't remember where they did it at, but they were working with fusion technology, and they were doing this with the express purpose of trying to get a net gain of energy, which is, according to the laws of thermodynamics, should be impossible. Like, you can't create energy.
Right.
It can't happen. So they did it. They managed to do it, and I think they did it by shooting lasers at an element of like plutonium or something like that.
No.
So what it ended up being is a very small scale, but they started with like 2 watts of energy and created 3 watts of energy. So they had a net gain of 1 watt.
Right.
So even though it's on a small, negligible scale, the simple fact that they did it,
well, it can be replicated,
means that it's possible.
Right.
Also, the implication there is that we have to rework our understanding of how that shit works.
Right.
Because up until now, everyone was all in agreement that you cannot create energy. It can only be,
Right. Well, our current understanding of whatever physics dictates that you cannot create energy. But obviously you can.
Obviously you can.
And so, like, I remember a few years back that they were able to send an atom back in time like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
It's like, how did you
quantify that?
Yeah.
Like, what test did you run to confirm?
You're like, oh, fuck. What?
Yeah. Like 2 seconds ago, you're like, where did this come from? I don't know. Turn the machine on. But yeah, I thought that was really cool because if you think about that on the grand scale, if we have the ability to create energy in a perfect world, that would solve a lot.
Right.
Think about how much stuff like production is held up by just energy.
Right.
And resources, and we burn fossil fuels because that's still the best that we have.
One of our biggest issues right now is like battery technology.
Yeah.
It's like, so are we able to fix that issue? Since we're able, obviously, to create energy as opposed to...
Well, if you think about like the scale of everything, we're hundreds, if not thousands of years away of this being, used commercially.
Right.
This technology being used commercially or in your home or anything like that. But, I mean, fire, when cavemen discovered fire, they couldn't fucking control it, and now you just have it fire whenever you want fire.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you have it in your pocket.
Yeah. It can still get out of control.
Yeah.
If you're being a dick about it. But...
like those kids up in Gatlinburg.
Yeah. What a fuck up that was. But, I mean, it's interesting to think that, one day it could be that we have self-replicating energy.
Right.
You install this thing in your house and you got energy forever. You never have a blackout.
Right.
You have this...
I don't think they're going to let that happen.
Well, see, that's the thing. That's why I said in a perfect world.
Right.
Because somebody's going to be in control of the infinite energy.
Right.
And they're still going to put a price tag on that thing.
Right.
Yeah. And it's not going to matter that that it doesn't cost them anything to make it.
Right.
They're still going to want you to...
Fuck you, pay me.
Yeah, fuck you, pay me. That's exactly how it's going to go. But I like the takeaway being that we still don't know everything there is to know about how reality functions.
Right.
Right? Because up until now, that was a function of reality. It was you can't create energy. But now we did it.
Right.
So what else do we think we know that, we might turn upside down on its head in the coming years?
As like our current understanding of physics dictates that X, Y, and Z can occur, but this thing over here can't occur.
Yeah.
But like given a certain parameter set, yes, that is correct.
Yeah.
However,
when you do it this way,
then it is an option. It's available.
And it could be that it depending entirely on the scale at which you're doing things, could dictate what's reality and what isn't. Like the quantum entangled particles, we talked about that one time. How if you send quantum entangled particles, if you send one of them this way and one of them that way, and this one over here is in state A, you would automatically know that the other one's in state B because they can only be in one or the other. But they discovered that that's not always the case.
Right.
Meaning that there's a function of reality that isn't as cut and dry as we think it is.
Right.
But that's a very small scale. That's an infinitesimal scale of the universe, quantum particles, as small as it gets.
Right.
So it could just be that the rules are different depending on the size of things.
Right. Exactly. It maybe it's that as things get larger, they get more complex, and the complexity then dictates that you can only do so much with it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's sort of like where they have like was it like photons or whatever it is? Mm-hmm. It's like photons exist and have existed in multiple places at one time throughout the history of the universe or something like that.
It's like the moment that it comes into being, it's already at everywhere it will be.
Right. That what?
What? What kind of fucking sense does that make? I don't know. So, I thought that was a really cool thing that, I say we. I had nothing to do with it. the top 0.05% smartest people on the planet managed to do. The other thing that was really neat was that I sent you that video about that fusion reactor that they had created, which apparently was top secret for a very, very long time. They only just recently started releasing information about it. So, up until now, the only way we could create power, or the best way to create power, was to boil water.
Right.
Because it was steam.
Right.
And you use that steam to turn a turbine, and turning the turbine creates the electricity.
Right.
That's what every kind of power plant does.
Power.
That's what a nuclear power plant does. And it was like people kind of have this idea that nuclear power plants are just like they have this glowing rock and they stick a cord in it and electricity comes out. It's like no.
This ooze, this sludge.
Power just out of it. No, you boil the water, use the nuclear material to boil the water, to create the steam, turn the turbine. That's what a coal plant does. You burn the coal, boil the water, create the steam, turn the turbine.
Right.
So this fusion reactor that they had, it was really neat because it kind of cut out all of that in the middle.
Right.
It was burn the fuel, create electricity. And the way that they did it was really neat because they on two opposite ends, if you kind of imagine like an hourglass shape, in the very center of the hourglass, it's a very tight, small opening. And then on the ends, it's much larger. So what they would do is they would take gas and they would superheat it into plasma. Mm-hmm. And they would use magnetic fields to shape the plasma. So they would give it a shape like a donut shape.
Right.
And then they would take this plasma donut and this plasma donut on either end of the hourglass shape, and they would fire it towards each other at the middle where they would collide. Mm-hmm. And the thing about it is that superheated gas wants to repel. Like most of those donut shapes want to repel away from each other. But if you shoot them at each other fast enough, when they hit in the middle, it creates a fusion reaction. And that fusion reaction created its own magnetic field, which turned the turbine immediately. So you cut out the water, the boil, and the steam. Right. You went directly from burning the fuel to creating the electricity. Right. And the fuel that they were burning is like we would never burn through all of it. Right. It was like deuterium, I think, or heavy water. Yeah. It's like basically everything in the ocean, and it creates its own byproduct that we can use to create more of it.
Yeah, there you go. Look at that.
It's like the perfect solution.
Yeah.
But they were showing this. They were showing this machine that they were using to do it with, and I'm just sitting here looking at this thing like, just in awe of it. Yeah. Like,
all the doodads and knobs and
the gizmos and gadgets and like it's got like a bag on it with a wire coming out of it, and I was like, who came up with the bag and wire thing? Like, who, like, hundreds of thousands of years ago, if even that, we were all in caves trying not to anger the sky gods. Yeah. Now here we are just fucking straight up creating electricity with this machine. I keep saying we. Humanity is on the whole. Right. But I think it's really cool to see actual breakthroughs in things, because I feel like we haven't seen a lot of that recently. Right.
A lot of it's been like commercial success for like computation and that kind of stuff. Like that's sort of been where the cutting edge stuff has been for a little while. It's just been
making your phone work better. Yeah, the hate machine.
Yeah, the hate machine.
Making the hate machine more efficient. Now we can hate each other even faster.
Yeah, there we go. So yeah, I mean, it's exciting to see, especially too, because for a long time people said that fusion it's not possible. It cannot be done. Yeah. So it's interesting to see, especially because the way that I understood it was that the reason why fission works is because the energy is already there. Yeah. And so essentially you're splitting the atom, and when you split the atom, you're releasing the energy from the energy that's already currently there. Whereas like with fusion, you're essentially taking two atoms and you're slamming them together
to
create the energy. Yeah. And they were like, the amount of force and the amount of energy it would take in order to slam those two atoms together
can't be done.
It would take so much energy that you wouldn't be able to get the required energy output in order for it to be even a possible,
like, make it even worthwhile.
Yeah, like, why would we even bother with this?
But they figured out that if you do it in a narrow enough of a space with strong enough magnets, right, then it's really no problem at all.
Right. It's sort of like the super collider.
Yeah, the CERN super collider,
which is a horrific.
Do you know that somebody shot themselves in the head with that thing?
Oh, really?
So they were going to like turn it on and like send an atom through it, like just the one atom. It was like a particle. Yeah. Because what it does is it smashes two particles together, and then it basically creates the Big Bang, but on a small scale that they can observe and take recordings and things. But some fucking coat had his head stuck over in the machine.
Intern.
Yeah, he had his head stuck in the machine. They turned it on, and it sent the particle through his head. Oh. And he didn't know that even happened. It phased right through him like it was nothing. And I think he ended up like having a mild headache. Yeah, and then he was fine. But for a while there, people were like, no idea what's going to happen to you.
Like, should we tell him?
Just let him turn into Ivan Ooze.
Like, we've just created a super villain. Like, somebody else is going to have to get in this fucking thing.
Yeah, we're going to have to like create a superhero now.
Yeah, send it through your ball sack.
I love, I'd say I love it, but one of my favorite stories of people like just fucking with forces beyond their control is the Demon Core.
I haven't heard of that one.
The Demon Core is this. It was a ball of plutonium. I want to say probably about yay big, and for everybody, you guys can't see it, but it's probably like the size of a gumball. Yeah. And they had it inside of this enclosure that was, imagine a larger sphere with a sphere cut out in the middle for that little ball of plutonium to sit in. Right. And the larger sphere on the outside, I want to say, was made of beryllium. Or nickel or something. Some other kind of reactive metal. So the bottom half of the outside sphere was sitting there with the plutonium ball in the middle of it. Right. And the top half of the outside sphere was like, off to the side. Because when you closed it, it allowed the plutonium to react, and it emitted a fucking absolutely insane amount of radiation. Right. Like glowing blue light radiation. Yeah. Like, if you can see the shit, it's a problem.
Yeah. It's going to be a problem for you.
Yeah. And so there was these scientists who were in there fucking with the thing, and he had the top. He had both halves of the outer sphere like on, but he kept them from being closed by sticking a flathead screwdriver like in the middle of them.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of like propped open like a doorstop. And so
he went to lunch.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like in a lab somewhere. And so he came back and he had like some colleagues with him, like 3 or 4 guys. And they walked in and I guess he was like, check this shit out.
Yeah.
And he was fucking with it and he accidentally slipped the screwdriver, and so the outside sphere closed completely around the plutonium, and everybody got doused in bright blue radiation. But he very quickly was like, "Ah, fuck!" He like pried it back open. But he told everybody this. I mean, this was like a second, 2 seconds that this happened.
He's like, "Don't panic."
Well, he pried it back open so that the reaction would stop. And he told everybody, he was like, do not move from where you're standing. He's like, mark the area where you're standing because we need to figure out how much radiation you were just exposed to. Now, the dude who did it was like standing like balls on it. Like he was right up on the thing. And everybody else was like at different points in the room.
Right.
And they all ended up dying of cancer in like a month.
Right.
It was just like the most radiation they could have been exposed to.
Fuck you, Mark.
I think he was quoted as saying, like, gentlemen, we have all just died, or something like that.
No.
Everybody's going to have some cool saying, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like, it's such, I say that that's one of my favorite stories because it's just hubris.
Yeah.
They're just in there fucking with this thing, and it killed them. You know?
It's so wild that, like, that there's just element, that, you know, like, obviously, like, it's a type of metal, so it's in the ground, right? So it's just something that, like, you can find that's in the fucking ground.
Well, it doesn't exist in the size of a gumball.
Right,
you
exactly.
know, it's like flakes.
Right.
But we gathered it all up and smooshed it together and put some other thing on the other.
Right.
Like, oh, no, we created death.
Well, so, like, is it uranium? Uranium cakes is like the yellow. It's like a cakey yellow.
Yeah, yellow cake uranium.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I think they used that for a long time. What, for warheads? Is that what they were using it for?
They've used it in reactors as well, too, because it has such a long half-life, I think.
I think so.
So the whole thing about a half-life is, you know, if a thing has a half-life of 100 years, right, and you have, say you have 100 grams of this thing, and its half-life is 100 years. In 100 years, you'll only have 50 grams of that thing.
Right.
In 100 more years, you'll have half of that.
25
grams, and so on and so forth. And the reason that the amount of that thing is deteriorating is because it's radioactive. Pieces of it are flying away.
Yeah.
That's what radiation is.
Right.
And so uranium had a very long half-life. So it was constantly emitting, but you weren't losing a lot of it.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that's why they used uranium. And also, you could find it fucking everywhere.
Right. It's pretty what, like, so if it has a half-life, then obviously it's getting created. So how does it get created? Because it's not just like you don't find it. It's like, oh, my half-life began.
Oh, you found me. I'll start deteriorating now. I mean, just from the creation of Earth, just from all the shit in space that crashed into each other, and you know.
But obviously, at some point, it was created.
Well, yeah, during the creation of the Earth,
right?
Very early on, very early on, you know, because they find it like, you know, hundreds and thousands of feet deep. You know, it's not just, you know, under your wild onions out in the front yard.
It's not like you pull up like a ball of plutonium, you're like,
oh, damn. That's what that irony taste has been in my mouth. Yeah, I don't know. I think that, you know, I don't know what all I'm going to see in my lifetime. Right. You know, like, you think about, you know, I had mentioned before, Mary had a great-grandmother that lived to be 105. Right. And so think of all the things that she saw. Right. Now, I very seriously doubt I'll live to 105. But, you know, even if I make it another 20 years, you know, what kind of things we will see in 20 years?
Right. Well, I mean, especially too, like with modern science and modern technology and everything's progressing so very quickly. Like you think about back in like 1150, Like, if you lived to 100 years, then you'd live to 1250. Well, nothing's fucking changed. It's all the same.
Yeah.
Like,
just the people are different.
The people are different. Like, it's really nothing's changed at all. Yeah. Like, it just kind of goes to show you, like, the very long, arduous process it took to sort of get to a place
where it started to ramp up.
Now we can go.
Yeah. And it all started when we figured out how to make steam. And we've just been finding new creative ways to make steam.
Yep.
And as of recently, we realized we don't have to do steam anymore. We can just jump straight into the electricity part.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. It's like you think about like where humanity would have gone had we figured out a different way of creating energy other than steam.
Yeah.
Like, would that have been more advantageous for us moving forward?
Like, there might still be another option, but we were just so hyper-focused on this like, steam thing is where
this
it's
works,
at. Yeah.
So we're just going to go with this now.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, was it like the Great Library at Alexandria? That like, essentially when that burnt down, it sent us back into another Dark Ages.
Yeah. They said that it set us back 2,000 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, because they, like, trigonometry and calculus, like, they had already figured all
Physics,
this stuff out.
Astronomy.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, like, when that burnt down, all that knowledge was lost.
Yeah.
Like, so you think where we are now, we could be 2,000 years ahead of even where we are right now.
Exponential.
Right.
At the rate that it's going.
Right, correct.
We might already be spacefaring.
Right.
I mean, that's a very lofty pipe dream, but...
Well, I mean, the exponential growth that we're experiencing currently with technology and manufacturing and everything, like, maybe not manufacturing.
Yeah.
Because we still do some pretty wild shit. Yeah. Especially, I watched an episode of the Joe Rogan podcast where the guy was like, he had a guy come on and was talking about cobalt, which is like the main element, the main thing that you need in order to like, for like these fucking phones.
Yeah.
And the computer.
Yeah.
And
like in chips and stuff.
Like all the chips and like all this shit is like in how, and like a lot of that shit is, mined in the Congo. And
by children.
Yeah, by children with sticks.
Yeah. They're digging it out of the dirt with a stick.
Right. And like...
They don't have any shoes on.
Yeah, like weekly, like they'll have like a shaft will just collapse like 100 feet below ground and just like kill 50 people.
And they go grab 50 more.
Yep, and they go grab 50 more of them.
Yeah, then you're sitting in a Starbucks tweeting on your death trap phone about how good of a person you are.
On your hate machine.
Yeah. What a funny world we live in. We just do funny little things to each other.
Yeah. Not ha-ha funny, but there's really nothing to laugh at.
Yeah. It's funny like in a cosmic way, I guess.
It's funny like in a dark humor sort of way.
Well, I think that's about all we got time for today. So once again, thank you everybody who's been listening. I was looking at our numbers the other day on Buzzsprout, and we're trending upward.
That's good.
So of course, with every episode that we release, our all-time downloads, of course, will go up. But like the past couple, like 7 days, whatever, we can see the graph, the bar graph of viewer retention or listener retention is growing. We're getting more hits per episode, things like that. So I think naturally what that means is more people are starting to tune in.
Right.
So,
well, we also have a larger back catalog now.
Yeah, we also have that. Yeah. So, for anybody who might be new to the podcast, thank you very much for joining us.
Hello, welcome.
And yes, hello and welcome. And if you're wondering what this show is, it's this.
No, this is what this is.
This is what this is. So thank you everybody who's been listening. Thank you to all the new listeners, and everybody who reaches out to let us know how much they enjoy the podcast. Really means a lot to us. Yes. We really enjoy coming down here and just bullshitting, and I think me and Wesley both use the podcast as an excuse to kind of decompress.
Yeah.
And just kind of unload the bullshit onto each other. So it's good for us. Like, it's good for our mental health.
Hey, here's this existential thing I've been thinking about this week.
Yeah. Hey, I guess you did have enough shit going on in your world. Here's some crap that I've been worried about.
Sorry, I was just wanted to check real quick and see if we had any submissions for the I'm sorry post, but it seems like we haven't made anybody too terribly upset so far.
Oh, nothing yet? Okay, we'll ramp up the offensiveness next episode. We'll just jump on here and start slurring. And saying terrible things.
Yeah, we'll jump on and tell you how horrible all of you people are.
Yeah, we'll start naming you. We'll drop in names.
Yeah. We'll do the thing that killed G4 TV's relaunch.
So yeah, if you guys want to connect with us, make sure you send us a message on Facebook, or you can email us at thiccboypodcast@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Twitter. We're over there. If we said anything that offended you or anything we were straight up wrong about, make sure you let us know, and we'll read out the correction here on the podcast in the new section, the segment we have called "I'm Sorry." I think that's all I've got. Do you have anything?
Nope. Just like you said, thank you so much for the continued support. For all the new listeners, hello and welcome.
Yep.
Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you check out the back catalog. There's plenty to listen to at this point. This will be the second year that we're going into, and then
that's our third year. This is year 3 of the podcast.
We've gone to year 2, so we're currently in year 2, right?
Yeah. Okay. You're right.
So we're currently in year 2, I think is the way to say it.
Yeah.
So at the end or November time frame of 2023, since it is currently 2023, then it'll be year 3. We'll have completed that, and we'll have been doing the podcast for 3 years at this point.
That's insane to think about.
I know. It's amazing that the podcast is almost as old as my daughter. But it's been fun. I've really enjoyed it, and thank you so much for the continued support. It helps us to continue to want to do the podcast, and like Gary said, if you have any critiques or any gripes, moans, or complaints, you can always hit us up on Facebook, or you can email us at the email, and you can find that in the show notes.
Yeah, you're not going to hurt our feelings.
No.
Well, all right, everybody, that's the podcast. Thank you and goodbye.
Bye, everyone.